Together, together, together we are stronger. Together, together, together we are stronger. Thank you everyone for your support on this Speak Out Against Racism. A lot of people have got up to speak today that have never spoken on a microphone in the city centre before, and I know how difficult it is for people to speak the first time. So I want to thank everyone that's been speaking so far, and I also want to thank everyone that's stopped to listen to see what we have to say, because there's no point speaking if no one's listening. If there's anybody else that feels like they could get up here and speak for 2 or 3 minutes about racism, then please don't feel shy, don't feel embarrassed. Everyone here is here to support you. This event has been organised by Tyneside Community Action for Refugees, better known as TCAR. TCAR is a group that was set up in 2005 to support asylum seekers and refugees in particular. What TCAR has been involved in is anti-deportation campaigns. We've stopped many families in the northeast from being sent back to countries where they were scared to go. In some cases, then the media has latched on to what we're doing and has provided media coverage. But unfortunately, for many people, if they don't speak English, it's difficult for them to talk to journalists, reporters, television crews, and it's been quite heartbreaking for me to see how fickle the media can be in this country. So for example, there was this one woman, Joy. She's been allowed to stay in Britain. Now she came to Britain twice before in the 1990s to work as a nurse in the hospitals in London. Now anyone that's been to a hospital in Britain can't fail to realise how much the NHS system is underpinned by migrant labour. And Joy's labour was gratefully received twice before, but when she had to flee domestic violence, which was getting so extreme that she couldn't bear it any longer, and she was scared for the life of her young daughter, when she came back the third time to Britain, she didn't come as an economic migrant by herself, and she wasn't welcomed with open arms anymore. Instead, she was treated with the same contempt as all refugees and asylum seekers are treated in this country. So she was forced to move away from the community she already knew in London, up to Newcastle, to a row of abandoned properties in Scotswood, where a company called Angel Group was making, until very recently, huge profits on just renting out empty abandoned properties to asylum seekers. And the reason that the media latched on to Joy's campaign against deportation was partly because the Home Office, in her case, they wrote to her before they were going to deport her, and they said which day they were coming to take her. So that meant that she had BBC camped out in her house, wanting to see what a dawn raid is actually like. And of course the Home Office didn't come, because they don't want people to know what happens at 6 o'clock in the morning. They don't want people to know how they wake children from their beds at 7 o'clock in the morning and drag them in vans and take them to detention centres without their belongings. So the Home Office didn't come and take Joy. Now the reason the media latched onto her campaign is because her 2 children had served in the British Armed Forces in Iraq, and one of her children had actually been like in a poster campaign to try and recruit, like these people are doing here, try and recruit more black young people to go and join the British Army. And so when The Independent took up the story and said that the Home Office wants these 2 men who are willing to fight for Britain, and they don't want their mother and they don't want their sister, then her campaign was taken up. Now, it's up to every individual to make that choice in this country whether they join the British Army. Personally, I'd never join the Army. I'd be appalled if any of my children or brothers or sisters joined the Army. But that is a choice that we have in this country. There isn't subscription. No one's forced. Yes, there is a huge problem of unemployment in this country. There's a huge problem of young people in old industrial communities not being afforded opportunities and feeling obliged to go and get at least they get a wage if they join the army. But that is a choice that people have in this country. So when the media latched onto her campaign, it was an amazing thing for her and her daughter, because they are now living in this country, and you can guess what she's doing. She's a nurse in Newcastle, which is what she always was doing beforehand, but when she was an asylum seeker, she wasn't allowed to. I could tell you another 10 cases of people who have suffered the same amount of abuse or worse than she suffered, but the media didn't take an interest in their story. And the problem with the media in this country is a lot of people do seem to believe that everything that they read in the media is true. Now, what I would say is, it's not that the media just print outright lies, although they do on occasion. It's more that they pick and choose which stories to publish when, and they pick and choose which details to give about people's life. So if somebody, in this country, it's still a disgusting fact that 2 women are killed every week in Britain because of domestic violence. And yet if we look at the articles in the media about women killed by domestic violence, you'll see that they are few and far between. There's nothing in the media about the appalling lack of resources being given to women's refugees. And yet, when asylum seekers come from a different country, if they've suffered domestic abuse in their country, if they've got a corrupt police force like there is in Jamaica, in Nigeria, then they don't qualify for refugee protection, because the United Nations Convention on Refugees doesn't cover domestic violence. It doesn't cover rape and other sexual abuse, only if it's an act of war. So even when women have clearly suffered just disgusting abuse, then how are they supposed to prove that it was done as an act of torture? How are you supposed to prove that? I mean, that is the disgusting thing about the system in this country. First of all, people come here, they're expected to just lay bare their lives to officials that they've never spoken to before. Often when they're given interpreters, it's interpreters that speak a completely different dialect and aren't interpreting what they're saying. And then they tell their story and they're still not allowed to stay. Joy was not allowed to stay in this country because the refugee system we have helped her stay. She was only allowed to stay in this country because of the campaigning work that TICA and other groups did. And that is why we're here on the streets of Newcastle, to talk about the racism that is still ongoing in this country. And that's why we need your support, because you're not going to find out about it by reading in the media. So that's why we need you to speak out, to share your experiences. So please don't be shy. Come and join our open mic, because together we're stronger. Together, together, together we are stronger. Together, together, together we are stronger. 1, 2, 3, 4. Deportation no more. 5, 6, 7, 8. Britain is a racist state. 1, 2, 3, 4. Deportation no more. 5, 6, 7, 8. Britain is a racist state.